Everyone expected me to die that day. Honestly, some part of me expected it too. But I've always been far too stubborn to let destiny decide my story. If you had told me years earlier that I would stand on an open plain, facing the full might of the Persian Empire, I might have laughed. But on that morning at Gaugamela, there was no laughter left in me, only focus, fire, and the feeling that the world was holding its breath. The Persians had chosen the battlefield with great care. Darius had even ordered the ground to be leveled so that his chariots could run smoothly. Imagine that, flattening miles of land just to make sure you can run me over with knives on wheels. I had to admire the effort, even if I didn't plan on giving him the satisfaction. We were outnumbered. As usual, I think at this point in my life I had made peace with the fact that I would always be facing armies twice or 3 times my size. Darius had brought everything he had: infantry, cavalry, archers, scythed chariots, and even war elephants from India. My scouts reported that the Persians stretched farther than the eye could see. Honestly, it felt like they stretched farther than my patience, too. But numbers mean very little if the man on the throne trembles more than the men holding the spears. And Darius, he trembled. That night, before the battle, sleep didn't come easily. Not because of fear. Fear was a familiar companion, but because I felt the weight of every life behind me. I walked among my men, silent, listening to them whisper, laugh, polish their weapons. They trusted me completely, and that trust is heavier than any armor. I remember one soldier asking me if I ever missed being a boy. I told him, only when I have to make decisions that end with thousands of funerals. He laughed. I didn't. War ages a man, even when the world calls him young. At dawn, I mounted Bucephalus. He was restless, snorting clouds of steam into the cold air. I patted his neck and whispered, "One more time, old friend." He knew the sound of battle better than most generals. The sun was rising behind us, and I placed my army so the light would blind the Persians. A small advantage, but in moments like this, you take everything you can get. My right flank extended thin and long, intentionally. Darius thought I was stretching to avoid his encirclement. In truth, I was baiting him. He took the bait. His left wing surged forward, cavalry and chariots rushing to envelop us. Good. That was exactly where I wanted him. Overextended, overconfident, beautifully exposed. Then came the chariots. If you've never seen a scythed chariot charge, imagine a wooden box strapped to a pair of terrified horses with blades sticking out like angry sun rays. They're fast, loud, and designed to slice men in half. Very dramatic, very deadly, very manageable, if you stay calm. As they approached, I gave the signal. My men parted into channels, like water opening around rocks in a stream. The chariots flew through harmlessly, and the moment they did, we surrounded them. The drivers didn't have a great day after that. Let's just say they won't be writing memoirs. Meanwhile, the Persians were pushing hard on my left, where Parmenion struggled to hold the line. He was a good general, but Darius had numbers that could drown a city. I knew I had to strike before my left collapsed, and I knew exactly where to strike. Straight at Darius, the king of kings, standing high on his chariot, surrounded by his royal guard. If I could break him, even for a moment, the entire Persian army would crumble. No empire survives the sight of its king fleeing. So I tilted my spear, tightened my grip on Bucephalus, and gave the order. My companion cavalry lowered their lances. The world narrowed to a single point, the place where I would drive my wedge straight into the Persian center. And then we charged. The sound was indescribable. Hooves thundering, metal clashing, men shouting prayers they never remembered later. Dust rose in a thick cloud, turning the world golden and red. I could hardly see, but I didn't need eyes, only instinct. We crashed into the Persian line like a hammer breaking pottery. I saw Darius. He looked right at me. For a moment, I thought he might stay, fight like a king, earn the glory the poets would have gifted him. But no, panic won. He turned his chariot around and fled in a burst of wheels and cowardice. When the soldiers saw their king retreat, panic spread faster than wildfire in dry grass. Their formations twisted, buckled, shattered. A 1,000,000-man army suddenly became a crowd of terrified men running in every direction. But victory was not yet fully mine. Parmenion sent desperate messengers. Our left flank was collapsing, crushed by the Persian cavalry. For a moment I hesitated. Chasing Darius meant ending the war in a single stroke. But abandoning Parmenion meant sacrificing thousands of Macedonian lives. I sighed, heavily. Duty over glory, as always. I wheeled my cavalry around to save the left. We hit the Persian horsemen from behind, and the momentum shattered instantly. Within minutes, the tide turned. We pushed them back, step by bloody step. When the dust finally settled, the battlefield was unrecognizable. Thousands lay fallen. The smell of sweat, blood, and trampled earth lingered in the air like a heavy curtain. But the Persian Empire, the great, ancient empire of kings and legends, had just been broken. Some say I won because I was destined to. Others say I won because Darius was weak. The truth is far less poetic. I won because my men trusted me, because Bucephalus carried me through fire, and because I refused to run when everything inside me screamed to survive. That night, I stood on a small hill overlooking the plain. The stars were bright, indifferent to the suffering below. For the first time, I understood that conquering the world meant much less than carrying the weight of the men who fought for me. Glory is loud, but responsibility is whispering and relentless. Gaugamela was the battle that broke an empire, but it was also the battle that changed me. I felt older, heavier, though the world still called me young. Victories carved their marks inside a man as deeply as defeats. But one thing was clear. From that day on, the world would never again speak of Persia without speaking of Macedonia. And the path to Babylon lay wide open before me.